Congressman Khanna said people who are just mentioned in the files shouldn't suffer any consequences necessarily. It's about people who did wrong. Howard Lutnick was on Capitol Hill today testifying and was asked about the discrepancy between his previous statement that he had one dealing with Epstein and then never again, and then the documents suggest otherwise. Here is Howard Lutnick. This is number 4, please.
I think you understand the root of concern here. It's the way you described very emphatically your first encounter with him in his apartment, said you were disgusted, would never have any contact with him again. Did you, in fact, make the visit to Jeffrey Epstein's private island?
I did have lunch with him as I was on a boat going across on a family vacation. My wife was with me, as were my 4 children and nannies. I had another couple they were there as well with their children, and we had lunch on the island. That is true, for an hour, and we left with all of my children, with my nannies and my wife, all together. We were on family vacation. We were not apart. To suggest there was anything untoward about that in 2012, I don't recall why we did it, but
Mr. Secretary, again, as I said.
Here's this Commerce Secretary with reporters also interested in getting Howard Lutnick to answer questions. Number 6, please.
About your interactions with Epstein? Did you have any financial involvement with Jeffrey Epstein? Why did you keep contact with Jeffrey Epstein after he pled guilty to sex crimes?
Come on, give us some space. Give us some space.
What do you say to the Democrats calling on for you to resign?
Give us some space.
All right, this goes on like this. Doesn't answer. Natalie, the White House says it's time to move on. The president has confidence in Secretary Lutnick. But by what standard is this story still a story from your point of view?
Well, I think you have to go to the beginning of this. I think it's certainly true that Democrats have played politics with this. They were basically silent on it since, I mean, not just before the Biden administration, but for a very long time. But I think this is where the Trump administration is really misunderstanding their base. To be fair, I think it's an issue where there is sort of like a sort of Damocles hanging over the head of anyone who dares to tackle this, anybody who's named in the file. But I think the sort of outright denial and the dismissal of people's very valid concerns over people who are tied to Epstein is really just unfounded. I don't think people are trying to character assassinate anyone who's just mentioned there, but people who are lying about their affiliation, or I think what I was sort of asking the congressman about, what I think people are a little more concerned about is how this relates to domestic and the domestic IC, but also foreign governments. And I think to just try to brush it under the rug when we haven't actually had meaningful transparency, it's only going to make the issue, I think, more interesting. And when you see these discrepancies and these lies like Howard Lutnick is engaging in, I think it just makes people even more skeptical.
Natalie, is this a story that will continue to be pursued regarding Howard Lutnick? And B, should it continue to be pursued?
I definitely think it will be. I mean, I think the legacy media will have a field day with this. I'm sure, more conservative MAGA media seems to be following the Trump line and sort of trying to move on. Not all shows. I know on War Room we've been advocating for conditional or additional releases. But I think this is bad. He shouldn't have been so definitive in lying about his lack of association. I think he sort of entrapped himself.
Steve, is this a story that should continue, or Howard Lutnick is not accused of any illegality and we should move on? Although probably maybe should have just said nanny rather than nannies. But
well, I think look, there are 2 problems for Howard Lutnick. One, he clearly lied previously. 2, maybe it's not illegal, it's not inappropriate, but it certainly, to me, shows bad judgment. When you know that anybody who had spent a lot of time with Jeffrey Epstein after 2009, after he had been to prison as a sexual predator, to say, I'm going to take my wife and kids to have lunch with the sexual predator, like it's nothing. Like, what were you doing? Like, what was your point? I think it's, his story doesn't really all fit together. He clearly had more of a relationship with the guy than he's letting on. And why you would stop by on your boat to have lunch with him after he's gone to jail is sort of beyond any explanation.
Yeah, Steve, I take everything you said. From a matter of society's point of view, should Howard Lutnick lose his job over this? Should, not will. Should he?
No, I look, I think for a lot of reasons, Howard Lutnick should lose his job. He's
Yeah.
completely unqualified and has not done a good job so far. But look, I think the fact that he lied about something, yes, that for that you should lose your job. People have lost their jobs in Washington for a lot less.
Yeah, I've long advocated it be a crime that anyone who lies to a podcast host should lose their job. I feel like that's a good principle. A couple more things on this. First, our partners at Polymarket have a question up. Let's Polymarket this question. Will anyone be charged? Will anyone face criminal charges over the Epstein disclosure? 43% chance. It's been as high as 60%. Will anyone be charged? Today, Ro Khanna read the names of 6 people who, powerful men from the Epstein files, who he says were the government considered co-conspirators. At the same time, the Justice Department has said there'll be no future prosecutions. Natalie, do you think anybody will be prosecuted?
I wish, but I think there are a lot more clear-cut cases that this administration could be pursuing that they sort of routinely failed on. I don't think the DOJ is necessarily up to task. And like I think we can all agree on, they really have botched the handling of this from a messaging perspective. So I don't think from a legal or criminal, civil, whatever sort of case perspective, they're going to be able to execute on that.
Yeah. Steve Elmendorf, have you ever met your namesake, Steve Bannon?
No, I have no.
You're not. I have many times, Natalie, more than I have. But Steve's a very bright guy, very able guy. And today I saw, Natalie, you talked about legacy media on my MAGA Twitter feed today. An extraordinary number of people called for accountability for your friend Steve Bannon. And I'm wondering, Steve, for instance, has not released the many, many hours of interviews he apparently did with Jeffrey Epstein. So I don't mean to put you in an uncomfortable position, but is Steve a part of this story, or should he be part of this story?
Are you asking me or other Steve?
I'm asking you first, and then other Steve.
Well, I think we have seen some of the documentary come out. I do believe that Bannon and team are working on releasing additional files that they have related to that.
Hmm?
I think too, criticized or lump Steve in with a lot of people who have been trying to keep this under lock and key is not totally valid. I think War Room, all the way from day one, this whole saga started in February when you had Bindergate, and then it was in July when you had, various people from the administration saying there's no there, we need to move on. There was no client list. Every step of the way, I mean, I think War Room has actually been one of the few, if not only, shows in the
Yeah.
MAGA mediaverse that has actually meaningfully talked about the issue, gotten to the heart of it, and actually called for everything to be released extremely unredacted. Steve has nothing to hide, but I just think that sometimes people get a little bit of a myopic view on it. War Room has never once said we should redact anything. I'm for releasing everything. So is Steve. He's said it many times. So I don't think that suggests there's anything to hide there.
Is there a known date for the release of additional portions of their interview?
Um, I'm not totally sure. I know, I believe it was done with Dan Fluette, that's who they did together, and that they've been working. I'm not exactly sure. I've not discussed this with Steve, but I would just point everyone who's kind of freaking out over the Steve and the Epstein stuff. War Room has stuck its neck out, much to I think the anger of the administration,
Yeah.
and continuing to I think sort of affirm President Trump's base, which is our audience, that you're actually not crazy for wanting to get to the bottom of this story.
Yeah, Steve, you're a veteran of the ebb and flow of things like this. I see in the chat, I don't read it, but I glance at it, are saying this story will never end. Is there an end on this, or there'll just continue to be people poring over these documents and finding people who had associations with Maxwell or Epstein and sort of scrutinize everything?
Well, I think there's an end if people are satisfied that you have put out everything that could be put out in a transparent way. And the reason we're still talking about this today is that they didn't put everything out in a transparent way. I think that's something Natalie and I agree about. And, once they put it all out, again, there have to be the appropriate redactions to protect victims. But otherwise, everything should be out, and then people can make decisions. And, look, decisions are going to get made about people who are not public officials, and it's really just a question of their audiences and their stakeholders and what they think about it. Steve Bannon hasn't been elected or appointed to anything, and we'll see what people think when they see all of the material. But
Right.
we have not seen all of the material, and I think a lot of people on the left, the right, the middle are not confident at the moment that they have seen everything that should be seen.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Right now, if you're interested in buying some stuff that's luxurious and comfortable, try Cozy Earth. Cozy Earth products. You've seen many people come on this platform and say how happy they are with the bubble cuddle blanket, with the sheets, with the towels. You've heard me talk ad nauseum about the pants. All available to you now, 20% off. Go to cozyearth.com. Use the promo code TWOWAY for 20% off everything on the site. The Baja bedding set is available to you now. The luxury bath towel set is also available. The bubble cuddle blanket, and then the pants. Heard from another one of you over the weekend. It's Tuesday, so yeah, over the weekend, about wearing the pants to a big conference, and everybody acted like they were the nicest pants they'd ever seen. And then, of course, you can wear the very same pair of pants to the beach or to the gym. Go to cozyearth.com right now, buy the magical pants or any of the other products for 20% off using the promo code TWOWAY, cozyearth.com. They say that something that's easy is like a walk in the park. Well, easier than a walk in the park, hit the subscribe button, be part of the Two-Way community, never miss an episode, be part of our conversations. Thank you for your service to America. And don't forget, you can now listen to the morning meeting and Two-Way Tonight on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.